Hello and welcome to my Red Templar faction guide. I'll be covering all the enemies, including all their abilities, resistances, weaknesses, immunities, and any other observations that I find. Red Templars function very similar to their Venatori counterparts. They can block melee attacks and abilities, and some physical abilities such as leaping shot or long shot. The swordsman will also perform a payback strike, which will knock you down after it successfully blocks 3 consecutive melee attacks. Marksmen also function in a very similar way to their Venatori ranged equivalents. The difference here is that they will fire an electrical arrow when kneeling. This arrow does not deal any more initial damage than the basic attack, but it will shock and deal some damage over time to you. Guards are units that carry a tall rectangular shield and a one-handed sword. They can use shield wall to block melee and ranged attacks from the front, and they have the charging bull ability, which will knock you down if it makes contact with you. Hitting the shield will stagger you, leaving you open to a payback strike which will knock you down. Red Templars, Marksmen, and Guards don't have any resistances, weaknesses, or immunities to anything. Horrors are primarily ranged units. Its basic attack will generate lyrium in its palm before firing 3 unguided shots at you. It has 2 abilities as well. The first is a ranged attack, where the Horror will crouch and fire 3 shots from its back. These shots will home in on you in a tall arc and deal the same damage as its basic attack. Its second ability will put the Horror into its melee phase. The Horror will clutch its head and scream before generating a barrier and a red energy field. While this barrier is active, the Horror can only perform melee attacks. It will also deal continuous spirit damage to all players within the energy field. When the barrier is destroyed, the Horror will resume its ranged attacks once more, thus ending its melee phase. Horrors are resistant to electrical damage, but are vulnerable to spirit damage. They don't have any immunities either. Shadows are dual-bladed rogues that utilize stealth to attempt to flank your team. They will enter stealth as soon as they have been aggroed and can't be targeted until they are in close range. Edward Scissorhands over here has blades for arms. Its attacks deal damage in an area of effect like AoE daggers do, meaning they can damage multiple players at a time provided they are in close proximity to the shadow. Shadows also have 2 unique melee abilities. The first is used when the shadow successfully flanks and breaks stealth behind you. It will backstab you several times in quick succession, almost always resulting in death if you don't have a passive such as Unyielding or Guardian Spirit active. The second one is how the shadow re-enters stealth. It will crouch and spin towards you, dealing damage to any player it touches before entering stealth when the animation is completed. Shadows are immune to all slowing effects as well as being frozen, panicked, or put to sleep. They also have no resistances or weaknesses. Knights are armoured units which have the ability to buff its nearby allies by shooting a constant stream of red lightning at them. This stream is broken after either 20 seconds has passed, line of sight is lost, or either unit dies. After testing, it seems that archers, horrors, and the commander receive a flat damage buff to all damage they deal. This buff isn't a universal value though, and each unit receives its own multiplier. The commander's damage is doubled, the archer's is tripled, and the horror's is quadrupled. The swordsman, however, receives a unique buff, and will be transformed into a horror when the 10-second animation completes. It's worth noting that the swordsman is completely vulnerable while this transformation is taking place. In addition to this unique ability to buff allies, the knight also carries a ranged attack which will home in on you and stagger you. It also has a powerful melee attack cycle of 2 punches and then a body check. This body check will stun you for a short time, leaving you vulnerable to any other incoming damage. Knights are vulnerable to fire damage and resistant to cold damage. It is also immune to all physical effects such as stuns or knockdowns, and to being frozen and paralysed. Behemoths are slow, heavy units which will charge at you and perform Mighty Blow as its main attack. If this attack hits you, it will knock you down for a period of time, leaving you vulnerable to any other incoming damage. It also has an ability where it will ground smash, generating full guard and causing red lyrium crystals to erupt from the earth in a semicircle behind the player. This blocks any ally from advancing and also prevents the player from retreating. These crystals can be broken by the Behemoth by either hitting or walking over them. They also disappear when the Behemoth is killed. Behemoths are resistant to fire damage but are weak to cold damage. They cannot be put to sleep, panicked, or paralysed, and they are immune to all physical effects. The Templar Commander is the boss of the Red Templar faction. He carries a 2-handed greatsword, and his basic attack is similar to that of the Venatori Brute. He will attack 4 times, and the 4th swing will knock you down if it hits. The Templar Commander has 3 battle phases. In the opening phase, he will only be able to use his basic attack and the ability Whirlwind. After losing about a third of his health, he will stomp the ground, knocking down any player nearby. Then he will drink a red lyrium potion which will cause him to increase in size and gain full guard. This event signifies the end of the first battle phase and the start of the second phase. In the second phase, the commander can use his basic attack Whirlwind and a new ability, Earth-Shattering Strike. The commander smashes his sword into the ground, causing the ground to rupture in a straight line towards you. If any part of this line hits you, you'll be thrown into the air and incapacitated briefly. The commander does this 3 times successively. It is advised to use a health potion to instantly recover you if you get hit by the first or second strike, as the knockdown will often incapacitate you long enough to be hit by the second or third strike, which will usually result in your death. After another third of his health is depleted, he will stomp the ground again, drink the potion, increase in size, and gain full guard, entering him into the third and final battle phase. In this phase, the commander can use all attacks that he uses in the previous 2 phases, with the addition of a new ability. The commander will leap through the air and smash his sword down on you. If it hits, it will often be an instant kill, especially on mages and rogues. You can predict this attack, however. The commander will point at the targeted player and draw a finger over his throat before jumping. Red smoke will also appear at the targeted player's feet, giving plenty of time to evade this move. When you have whittled the commander down to his last 10% of health, he will drink another red lyrium potion, only this time it will cause him to overdose and he will shrink and die. While this animation is taking place, he can be targeted and attacked, but no damage will be dealt. This concludes my Red Templar faction guide. Stay tuned for my upcoming Demon faction guide, which I'll be working on in the near future. Thank you for watching, goodbye.